All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Wednesday, January 3rd, and we have a jam-packed NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, we're going to go through each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean on the spread. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about the games, anything else I like in them. But as always, my final play, so what I'm actually rolling with myself, those plays are going to be in the pinned comment if you do want to fade those picks. Now, yesterday, a whole lot of work for really a whole lot of nothing. We go 3-4, but one of the losses was a half-unit loss. That was in the Bulls and Sixers game. I don't want to spend too much time recapping, but if you guys know, you'd know with that Bulls and Sixers game. Actually, you know what? I'll just say it. The Sixers, I loved their team total yesterday. I talked about it in the video, right? They had 110 with over 8 minutes to go in the game. They finished at 110. They didn't score for that long. It was absolutely crazy. So that game could have put things into the positive night here, but nonetheless, guys, a 3-4 night. The only saving grace is that one of those losses was a half-unit loss, so we only lost about a half unit on the day. But nonetheless, guys, let's continue to talk about some bad news from last night. The ride of the day also comes up short. We had Trace Jackson Davis over 20.5 PRA. He comes up just short. This is coming in from It's Henry D Music. I like the spot. He's getting the start and all that jazz, and it just does not come through. So our picks, we come up just a little bit shy, and the ride of the day also comes up a little bit shy here as Jackson Davis finishes with 16 PRA. But if you guys do want to be the ride of the day, and we need some bangers, right? I know there's a bunch of good ones in the comments. You got to convince me as to why to jump on board with your pick. Use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments, and I'm jumping on board with one person's pick, giving you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. I'm also shouting you out over on X, so make sure to follow me there at EvGuyBoston. I followed everyone back yesterday. We'll do the same today. If I didn't follow you back, make sure to tweet at me, be like, hey, you said you'd follow me back, you didn't, because I will. But go ahead over there, follow me, because I'm shouting out the ride of the day over there as well. But we need some winners. We need some winners in the ride of the day. It's a few nights in a row now that we have not come through with that. But let's go ahead and jump into today's slate, guys. We're starting off with the Cavs taking on the Wizards. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get going. Right now, the Cavs sitting at near double-digit favorites over this Wizards team, which makes a lot of sense. Now, I'll say this is kind of like a non-confident lean. I'm going to lean towards the Wizards just because it is a lot of points, but you're not going to catch me betting on the Wizards. I just don't think the Cavs are really in trust territory. Like, if you guys have been watching the videos for a couple weeks now, I've been like trying to make the case for the Cavs, and they continue to kind of just go up and down. Like, they're not terrible. They obviously have a lot of injuries, so they have some rationale and reasoning as to why they've been inconsistent, but 9.5 points here seems like it's just a little bit too much for me to lay. So by default, I'm leaning Washington, but really I wouldn't take that as like an Evs on Washington today type of a spot. The total sitting at 239 here. I also don't mind the under in this spot. So Washington has actually hit more unders than overs in their last 10 games. They've hit 6 unders out of their last 10, which is crazy with how bad that defense is. And Cleveland, though they've had a few overs cash for them, they're also looking a little bit inconsistent on the offensive end. They had a 121 scoring night against Toronto just a couple nights back, right, on New Year's Day, but that was the highest scoring night they had in 5 games prior to. So I don't mind the under 239 in this spot. The only thing that we don't love is the fact that Washington's defense is that bad that, like, okay, well, does Cleveland just have a really good scoring night, and 1, it kills our lead on the spread, and 2, it kills our lead on the under? Perhaps, but I don't know if this game really makes its way into the final plays either. I don't really even like any player props in this spot either, but we don't determine the order of the slate. The slate determines the order of the slate. So we'll move on here, guys. Again, I don't think that there's much that's going to come out of this game from a confidence perspective. Next up, we have the Pacers taking on the Bucks. Total sitting at 257. This could be, I'll say this first, this could definitely be a same game parlay potential type of a game. We almost cashed the one when they just played a couple days back. Came up 1 bucket shy from Miles Turner for a nice plus 261 hit. So we could get kind of involved with something like that again. But in terms of a spread slash total here, so spread, we'll start with that. I like the Bucks in this spot. I think I like the Bucks off of a loss. Like I've said kind of all year long, this is a good team coming off of a loss, and they just saw this team as well. So I'll take them minus the 3 points. I mean, yes, you're paying a little bit of juice in the high minus 140s here, but I might consider them on the money line because I've seen a couple sportsbooks move to 3.5. as weird as it sounds, I don't like 3.5 nearly as much as I like 3. I know that that's like really splitting hairs, but it just kind of is where my mind is right now. So I'll consider the Bucks here on the money line. They have won 8 of their last 10, but they've lost 2 of their last 4. So you can make the argument that they're not trending in the right direction, but I do think that they jump back on board and kind of click in the spot against Indiana, in which they've played them already 4 times this season. Indiana has won 3 of those games. So it's like, all right, Milwaukee, you know this team, you got to get it together. And if you can just run with this team, I think that they can make the stops when it counts that Indiana doesn't necessarily have in their bag. In terms of a total, we're looking at 257. All of these games have been high scoring, 126 to 124, 128 to 119, 140 to 126, and then all of a sudden last game, still a high scoring game, but well underneath the number that was closed at 262. It was 122 to 113. I'm thinking this one also goes under. Milwaukee really has to play defense to try and win this game because, yes, I believe that they are one of the teams that can outscore Indiana, right? But Indiana plays at such pace that it's showing that when they kind of try and run on Milwaukee, it's worked 3 out of 4 times this season, right? So I think Milwaukee's going to have to say, all right, Brooke, all right, Giannis, let's lock in, play some damn defense, and that's how we can try and win this game. So I'm going to look at the under 257. It kind of fits my game script and narrative that Milwaukee wins this one, right? In terms of player props in this spot, I feel like, you know, when you look at a Milwaukee dominant win or something like that, you can always consider Giannis, but his line is so up there at 56.5 for his points, rebounds, and assists. That's a little bit too much. I don't mind taking a peek at Malik Beasley again. We know Indiana struggles against shooting guards, and there's also a chance that Chris Middleton misses this game as he's questionable. So it could be a good spot for him to elevate just a little bit. Guys, before we continue on with the slate, speaking of player props, I want to talk to you about Sleeper. They have a free square for new users tonight. Devin Booker, his normal points line, 29.5. They've knocked it all the way down to 0.5. I think he scores at least 1 point. The Suns have had their ups and downs. Devin Booker's had his ups and downs, but 1 point I think we can get from the man. So go check out Sleeper, guys. They're going to match your first deposit with the link in the pinned comment. They're going to match your first deposit up to $500. $500. Literally, I know it's crazy sounding, but if you put in $500, they will match it. You'll have a new account balance of $1,000. It sounds like a lot to put in 500, but think about getting 500 free bucks. You can also go cheapo deluxe like many people do. It's still a great app. Go try it out. You could put in 25 bucks. They'll give you 25. New account balance of 50. I'm just telling you the maximum. That is absolutely absurd right now, 500. But guys, go check out Sleeper. Again, that link is in the pinned comment. They're going to double your first deposit, and new users get this Devin Booker square. I highly, highly, highly recommend Sleeper to anyone that likes the pick'em apps out there. Sleeper, Prize Picks, and Chalkboard are really what I'm messing with right now, and I've been loving all 3 of those apps. They all have unique things as well. Like Sleeper has unique multipliers. Not every single pick or every single payout is the same based on how many players you put in the slip. Go check it out, guys. Link in the pinned comment. Let's go ahead and get back to this slate. All right, OKC traveling to Atlanta after a home kind of nail-biting win against my Boston Celtics last night. Right now, OKC only 2-point favorites. That makes a lot of sense. They aren't a back-to-back. Again, that was kind of a draining game, but this is an Atlanta team that is just fadeable at home right now. Can they pull one out every now and then? Sure. Like, could they win this game tonight? Sure. Everything in the world seems to be working against OKC, but at the same time, I don't really think that Atlanta is this prolific ball club right now. They finally got back on the win train after 4 straight losses prior to their last game, and that was against Washington. The one thing that you could make the argument is that Atlanta has 3 days rest. Oklahoma City, again, playing on a back-to-back after a home game, traveling to Atlanta now for this game. But Atlanta, you want to go to against the spread rankings, filter to home, and scroll all the way to the bottom. How about this? I'll show you guys. Atlanta, literally 1-12 at home against the spread here. 1-12 at home. We talked about it last time out, and we're talking about it again now. One of the worst home teams in the NBA, especially when it comes to against the spread. Give me the Thunder here. That line seems a little trappy, but again, I'm trying to justify it because they're on a back-to-back, but I think this Thunder team is just miles better than Atlanta. The only thing that would work against them is the fact that they're traveling right after a nail-biting win in Atlanta. Like, everything points to OKC so much that it's like, yeah, the books put this line there for a reason, right? But give me the Thunder here. I don't want to overthink this one. The total sitting at 248.5. I really can't ignore looking at the over here. We have a Thunder team that's just been scoring so many points, right? Like so many points. And they're scoring with ease as well. And this Atlanta defense that is literally Swiss cheese. And this Thunder team isn't like a streaky type of scoring team. They're literally the first team in the NBA on points off of drives, mainly due to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's dropping like 30 a game off of drives, right? But still, like, that's more of a easy, repeatable pattern type scoring than a team that gets hot from jump shooting and that type of thing. So I'll lean towards the over here. Also, for what it's worth, OKC, you're worried, oh, back-to-back, blah, blah, blah. 3-0 to the over this year on a back-to-back. So going up against an Atlanta team that really is just a Swiss cheese defense, I don't hate the spot at all. It is a high-ish number. Again, 247 to 248.5, depending on where you get your sports books. We'll see which line that kind of shifts towards. But 365, who has been early to move lines lately at 248.5. But if you can still get at 248.5, 247.5, or 247, probably your best bet. Again, high number. Still think they can get the job done. All right, Rockets taking on the Nets. Was not impressed with what the Nets brought to offer yesterday against New Orleans. They lose 112 to 85, and I'll tell you guys, talk about a fadeable spot. We were that close to locking in Nets plus 6.5. It moved to 5.5, and then we stayed away from it, and I am damn glad we did. But I'm sure a lot of people were on the Nets yesterday because they're good against the spread team, but I think that that's starting to fall through the cracks, to be completely honest. But nonetheless, in this game, I don't think that 6.5, I've actually seen 6 on some sports books, is too much to be laying as the Rockets. This team is very good against the spread at home. This year, 12-5-1 against the spread at home. So yeah, I trust them. They're 13-5 straight up as well. Give me the Rockets, and I also like the under here if the Rockets going to win this game, because this Rockets team, their defense is good. They play well together, and at home, again, this is a defense that I guess you could just say steps up a little bit more than even regular, which is crazy because this is a team that is obviously one of the better defenses so far this year, right? But so on the season, they're allowing the 3rd fewest points per game. That's crazy, right? They're like 5 points below league average. And then field goal percentage, they're about 2.5% below league average in terms of allowed. When you filter them to home, it gets even better. They're 4% below field goal percentage, going from 3 to 2 ranked. And then same thing for scoring. They go from 3 to 2, allowing 10 less points than league average at home. So I trust the defense here in Houston, and also just Houston to get the job done at home. Now, a player prop that I really don't mind here is going to look at Alfie Sengun here over 4.5 assists. So on the year, Brooklyn kind of right in the middle of the pack of assists allowed to the center position. But if we want to filter over on Fantasy Pros here to the last 15 in centers and assists, you can see the Nets allowing the 5th most assists to the center position in the last 15 games. And in his last 5 games, he's averaging 9 potential assists per game, which is definitely a good sign there. And again, he's hit this in 7 of his last 10. His last 2 games, crazy amount of assists. So give me Alfie Sengun here over 4.5 assists as a player prop in this game as well. That's definitely got a strong chance of being a final play. If you guys want to check out that tool that I just showed with the red and green, green means good, red means bad. I say it all the time. That is Outlier, guys. Link in the pinned comment. You can try it free for 7 days. I'm sure the Outlier guys don't like me telling this, but even if you want to try it for 7 days, go do that. Even if you don't plan on paying for it, it's only $19.99 afterwards, which is a very manageable, price for this tool. But go try it out, guys. 7 days of this tool is well worth it. Then you can decide if you like it or not. But 7 days free. Link in the pinned comment. Go check out Outlier. Literally my favorite sports betting research tool for player props, bar none. All right, Minnesota's taking on the Pelicans here. Now, I'll say this right off the bat, I like Minnesota tonight minus the 6.5 points, right? But there's a couple, because I just think they're the better team. And originally, I was like, oh, Pelicans on a back-to-back, right? Well, Pelicans are 3-1 against the spread on back-to-backs this year. 3-1 to the over. And when Pelicans hit the over, they look pretty damn good. So they play pretty well when overs have been cashing, which is a little bit of a nugget to look at here. So it makes me a little bit nervous that, this is a spot in which back-to-backs don't really affect them. So against the spread, 2-2. And then over-unders when they're on a back-to-back, 3-1. And again, they have a strong correlation as to when they're getting wins, they're hitting overs. They did that against the Lakers. They did that against Cleveland. They did that against the San Antonio Spurs and then the Washington Wizards. So 4 of their last 5 against the spread wins have been when overs have cashed. So last night was an against spread win for them, and that's because Brooklyn didn't show up. So worries me a little bit that back-to-backs usually result in overs for the Pelicans, which, by the way, leaning towards the over just because of that trend. And it kind of makes me a little nervous about Minnesota. But I do think Minnesota is the better team in this spot here. I don't think that should be too shocking to anyone. They're 7-3-1 with rest advantage as well, which that could come in clutch because, again, Pelicans back-to-back. So give me Minnesota here. That's against the spread, 7-3-1. Minnesota minus the 6.5 points. In terms of the total, like I said, looking at the over, there's not many player props I like in this game either. Overall, I could see almost every person giving another, like Zion giving Cat trouble, Cat giving Zion trouble, like X, Y, and Z. And again, back-to-back, you never really know if some guys could be sitting on the Pelican side. So I'll stick away from player props in this game most likely. All right, Memphis taking on Toronto. This was kind of a hard one to peg. I think I'm going to slightly lean towards Toronto because Memphis on a back-to-back. I really didn't like what I saw out of them last night against San Antonio. Now, they were, in control of that game. They got up plenty during that game. So I don't want to make it sound like I guess Memphis dropped the ball and because they only won, final score being 106-98, that they looked really bad. But I just wasn't impressed by it. Now they're on a back-to-back, favored again at home against a Toronto team that, 1-for-1 in terms of wins since that trade goes through, right? They were 2.5-point favorites. They beat Cleveland 124-121 a couple nights back. I'll give them the slight lean in this spot. I guess I just don't mind it altogether. In terms of a total, though, 231.5, I'm going to lean towards the under. You have a Memphis team that on back-to-back just 1-4 to the over, so 4-1 to the under in this spot. And then a Toronto team that, as a road team, again, this kind of hurts the spread lean, but as a road team, just really has struggled overall on the road this season. So it kind of makes me feel like their offense won't be on fire or clicking altogether, which this Memphis offense, I tried to tell you yesterday, very inconsistent offense. We could see a game just like yesterday, finishing in the low, maybe even in the low 200s for this spot. I really don't mind looking at like I said, the under here, just because one, don't want to trust the offenses. Two, you have a Memphis team that, they're not an over team right now. In fact, this year, they're 13-20 in terms of over-under. So give me the under in this spot as well. No player props either in this game. This is a really weird one for me. In fact, I haven't seen many Memphis player props even out. Looks like John Morant's the only guy, and it's like his steals and first quarter one. So if anything comes up, we'll update you guys in the pinned comment, but I doubt that anything really comes up. Next up, we have the Knicks taking on Chicago. Chicago on the back-to-back here. I will say, based on the blowout and whatnot, I'm not too concerned about starters' minutes for the Bulls here, but I have a feeling there's a reason why the books come in with this line so high, right? Like, this has been a good Chicago team. I've given them credit. The whole world's given them credit. They've now lost 3 of their last 5 games. Maybe they're kind of back to this sort of up and down type of a team. They went on a hot streak for a hot minute there. But this is an interesting line that this opens up at, being 9.5 here. So I think I have to trust where this is. Actually, it opened up at 9, I believe, and now it's already 9.5. So the books are afraid to sell those Knicks -9 tickets as well. So I'm going to lean towards the Knicks, who you could make the argument about them that they've been kind of up and down too, right? Like, they have not been consistent, but there's something about this line that if you just look at this line, Vegas is saying that the Knicks are going to smoke them. So whether or not that becomes a final play, TBD, because I do think the Bulls can make this game close. But looking at what's in front of us and just taking it for what it's worth and not overthinking it, you got to think that the books here, moving this line, making it even bigger and bigger, they think that there's some sort of let's crush them today type of a spot. No Vucevic still, right? Patrick Williams, I believe, is now questionable. So a couple injuries that are new for the Bulls here. In terms of player props, I want to jump into Outlier because I want to check out this one here. OG Anunoby, new team. So he only had 1 assist last game with his first new team. He played plenty of minutes, right? But over 1.5 assists is not a bad look here. Yes, you're paying a lot of juice, but it looks like other books are going to come in even steeper in terms of a price tag. Knicks allowing plenty of assists to, the Chicago Bulls allowing plenty of assists to the small forward position this year. And I feel like there's just a thing with being on a new team and whatnot that, he could look to delegate a little bit more than usual. So in his opening night there with them in terms of points, had a decent night, 17 points there, but he shot 58% from the field. So if he doesn't like have it going, I could see him passing to Brunson, passing to Randall, being a little bit less aggressive offensively there. So 2 assists isn't asking for a lot from the kid either. So give me over 1.5 assists for OG Anunoby. Again, with that mindset that he's on a new team, he might be more willing to, okay, here, not like a crazy spin pass through a guy's legs assist. I'm talking, usually I would dribble, maybe pull up, but I can't do that with my new team, so let me pass it, Brunson, pull up 3, and it's like, oh, there's an assist. So I think, you could find Blind Swirl could find a nut on a new team more than a team that he's used to, so I'll lean towards that. Now, the total sitting at 219, I just can't imagine that this game goes under with the fact that, we're looking at a spread of 9.5, so I'm going to slightly lean towards the over, but again, these numbers kind of throwing a wrench into my head here. The books have me tripping here because those don't correlate. -9.5 and under 219. Like, I don't understand. It's either, to me, it's like the Knicks go and drop 125 to like 110 or something, which would be way over this mark. I can't really see the Knicks scoring kind of like what we saw the Sixers do last night, 110, and the Bulls again just scored less than 100. That doesn't seem like it's the game script for me. But nonetheless, guys, keep an eye on the pinned comment like I tell you a million times in each video. All right, Mavs taking on the Blazers. Like I always tell you guys, I do give the Blazers credit for their perimeter defense. Now, they have injuries to note. No DeAndre Ayton, and a lot of guys questionable. Kamara, Simons, Brown's questionable, Reith questionable. Some guys that don't even matter, right? But I still give them credit in terms of their perimeter defense as long as, Brogdon's out there. Now Scoot Henderson's back too, which leads me into looking at some Luka stats, but not his points or anything like that. He's actually hit his over in assists in 5 of his last 7 games against them. This season, he's hit his assists twice. He has had at least 10 assists in both games. I like the spot for Luka to be able to kind of, obviously have that usage and hold the ball plenty, but go out there and, pass it versus go score. So I like Luka's assists here, but in terms of a spread pick and everything like that, I'm fading the Blazers. I like Dallas, though that 11 number is a little bit high. They haven't covered that in 4 straight games. I think that this could be sort of a get right spot for them as well. So give me the Mavs here to kind of get things back on track. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They are back home after, a 3 or 4 game road trip. Mavericks minus the points, even though it is such a high number. In terms of a total, I'm like 50-50. I'm going to be completely honest. 50-50 in this spot in what I'm just seeing. We saw them play in early December, and then we saw them play at mid-December. Both the games went over this number, but for whatever reason, those are both in Portland. I'm wondering if Dallas locks up a little bit more at home. I know that could be a little crazy to think about, but they are a slightly better defense when it comes to playing at home. So I'm on the fence here. I guess I lean towards the under because these two teams have been fairly inconsistent. So 2 overs have cashed here. Maybe this one's kind of where the flop comes from. All right, Jazz taking on the Pistons. We are still running the challenge over on Twitter/X, guys, if you want to follow along. But until, I feel uncomfortable doing it, or until we're not making money, I'm still taking Pistons money line, Pistons spread, and Pistons team total. We've done it for 2 straight games for them, and we're up nearly 3 units doing it. Yes, it helped because the night that we started was the night they finally got their win over the Raptors, and they covered, and they hit their team total. But just a fun challenge here. It doesn't really impact our record. I'm not counting it, even though I wish we could because it's been successful so far, but not counting it towards the record. But in this case, we have to put that aside, right? We have to look at these games in terms of like actual opinion, not just auto, back the Pistons here. And Jazz at home, I don't mind. I don't like the Jazz. I think I've made that pretty clear. But when they're at home, I'm much, much, much more comfortable with them. And the fact that they are laying this many points, and this is where, Vegas has them pegged, and then the line has got bought up from 7 to 8.5, and sometimes 9, or some books 9 now, tells me that, there's no faith in this Detroit team. So I'm going to believe in that. I'm going to lean towards the Jazz here. Now, the total sitting at 240 seems like a hell of a lot of points, but again, this is a good Jazz offense at home. They play a hell of a lot different than they do on the road, and they're finally home here after having a long road trip, and now this is their last game before going on an even longer road trip. And listen to this, their next 3 games on the road. This is the Utah Jazz, right? Get ready for them to just come out with a black eye. Next 3 games at Boston, at Philly, at Milwaukee. Like, I don't know if some of these guys might fake an illness to miss that trip. That's going to be a bloodbath. So I'd expect them to play well here, kind of coming out of, obviously, like I said, that road trip, finally getting a couple wins here at home, feeling comfortable. We got to capitalize on this game against the Pistons before we get smacked around. So I like the Jazz, as well as maybe looking at their team total. The over is super high, but I don't mind the Jazz's team total. All right, next up, we have Phoenix taking on the Clippers. I want to jump over to OddsJam, guys. I know I feel like I'm plugging a lot, but a lot of tools were valuable this morning when looking at it. But you can use the link in the pinned comment for OddsJam. You get 25% off and 7 days free when using code GuyBoston. But let me jump over and show you a pick that we're looking at in this game. So forget trends, forget anything like that. Yusuf Nurkic over 10.5 rebounds. Just using Sportsbook's odds here, you can see average Sportsbook's odds are minus 120, but BetMGM has them at plus 100, the only one in the plus money here. So this is the EV tool from OddsJam. We'll probably lock this in right after the video comes out, but I want to explain to you why we're taking this, right? If sportsbooks across the industry have this marked at, average of minus 120, this means that BetMGM is totally mispricing this line, right? So give me the over 10.5. Again, these are the types of plays. These are positive EV plays that OddsJam is showing us here. There's tons of them. I just have it filtered to NBA this morning, but positive EV using Sportsbook's lines to find the mispriced line and capitalizing on that. It's one of the only true, unless you're just good at picking games, profitable strategies in the sports betting world. I like that. Hopefully we can get that line right after this records. But again, guys, if you want to try out OddsJam, there's a link in the pinned comment for that as well. And you can use code GuyBoston and you get 25% off your first month there. But in terms of this game, so Yusuf Nurkic is, I wouldn't be surprised if that's in the pinned comment now as a positive EV play for over 10.5 boards. But in terms of this game, where we're coming out on a spread side and whatnot here, I do think that this could be a Clippers game. I don't trust them on the road, but the Suns, I tried to start backing them, right? I tried to like what they're doing here, and then I just didn't love and yes, they beat Portland by, I even forget what it was, right? Like nearly 20, maybe 20 points. But I'm starting to lose the they're consistent. Kevin Durant's not in, so it makes me tough to back them. They still beat Portland by, again, like nearly 20 or just over 20 without Kevin Durant, but now you're playing the Clippers. So there was kind of and if you guys recall in the last few videos, I've been like, oh, the Suns are figuring out, they're putting it together. But here's like me putting my money where my mouth is, and I couldn't get there. Without Kevin Durant, the Clippers are coming to town playing them, and I'm like, no, I can't touch the Suns. So clearly, I needed a little bit more to put me over the edge in terms of being convinced by the Suns team. So I'll lean towards the Clippers. They are on the road, not the best road team, but again, this Suns team without Kevin Durant going up against a good team, I think is going to be a tough spot for the Suns. So give me the Clippers here. Total sitting at 233.5. Like I've said, if this is going to be a win for the Suns, they'll score, I feel like, a decent amount of points. But this Clippers defense is not necessarily anything to tip your nose at. So I think I'm going to lean towards the under ever so slightly because, again, I don't think the Suns necessarily win this game, meaning I don't think that this pace gets absolutely pushed. And in games that the Clippers like to win, more often than not, they're looking at unders. Their last 3 wins all were unders, and I believe it was... I do have it up. So I believe 5 of their last 8 wins have been coming after unders here. So I'll take the Clippers in this spot as well as the under. All right, Lakers taking on Miami. Just going to do a little bit of line reading here. This Lakers team, 6.5 point favorites, and they've only won 3 of their last 10 games. So trusting the books here, trusting that they may know what they're doing. This line was bought up from 5.5 as well. And this Miami team, no Jimmy Butler still. He's been out for a while, obviously, right? So I do think that this could be a spot in which that's going to impact them. The type of offense that, the Lakers have with Anthony Davis, LeBron James. I do think that having a guy like Jimmy Butler, a leader, a veteran in that spot, can help against a team like this. So obviously, if Anthony Davis, LeBron play, they're always on the injury report, right, with their lower body injuries, like whatever. But I do think that, LeBron, Anthony Davis could just kind of dominate this Heat team. Maybe Bam has a decent game because, again, he's just been doing his thing out there, double-double. But give me the Lakers minus the 6.5. Not the most convincing argument, I get it. But again, I'm just looking at that line, surprised that it coming in at 6.5 and only getting bigger. Seems like a spot for where the books just are really confident in the Lakers. So let's use that against them. Total sitting at 226 and a half. I think I'm going to lean towards the over here. In the last 10 games for the Lakers, they have hit the over in this spot. And if I think that they're going to win the game, I think that they kind of control the pace and they're the home team. Makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. All right, Kings taking on the Magic. A little bit to monitor here. Not that it's all right in front of us on the injury report, but both teams on a back-to-back here. Sacramento coming off of a a bad loss to Charlotte. They were 15.5-point favorites. They lost by 7 points. Yeah. And then Orlando coming off of a loss against Golden State. We were on the right side of that last night. De'Aaron Fox had a great game for us. We had over 10.5 rebounds plus assists. He had like 6 in the first quarter and then finished with 11. So he made us sweat it out, but still a plus money cash for us yesterday. But in terms of this spot, I'm going to lean towards the under. You have two teams that with no rest trend towards the under. Sacramento 1-3 or 3-1 to the under on no rest, and then Orlando 3-2-1 to the under on no rest here. Now the line has, I think the bookmakers are aware of this because the line's at 232.5, which if you know anything about where these Sacramento lines have been coming in at, this is going to be the smallest one they've had in I think like 5 games, and that was against Minnesota, the only other one that was even comparable. And that's such a good defensive team, so they understand that these two teams trend towards unders here. But I think in terms of what I'm looking at from a spread perspective, I'm going to lean towards the Kings. This Orlando team, 2 games in a row, have struggled on this West Coast trip. They did, I guess you could say, beat New York. They won 3 of their last 4 before going on this trip. Now they played Phoenix, they played Golden State, and it's like, okay, now they've started to struggle just a little bit here. So, on this road trip. And then they have Denver in, I don't think it's tomorrow. Yeah, they wouldn't play 3 games in a row. They have Denver in at least, 1 day between either 2 games from now or 2 days from now or 3 days from now. They might be looking ahead to that as well. Not the best spot for Orlando, but if you're on the Orlando side of things, I don't hate it. They could bounce back after a loss as well. Like, I'm not trying to say that the Kings are going to roll them, because the Kings coming off of that loss is kind of like, all right, well, that's a little worrisome there, right? Whereas Orlando has a winning record against the spread coming off of losses. But nonetheless, guys, going to lean towards the under as well as the Kings. And that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Again, if you did, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. We are grinding for you guys, waking up early, getting these videos out. You guys have been super responsive and supportive this entire NBA season, and we're not stopping now. So appreciate everyone out there. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.